Over the past decade, the Baylor Bears football program has been a wreck, and more specifically, a 4-year period of thrill and disappointment for fans that I'll dive deeper into later in the video. We've seen scandals, various coaching changes, fast rebuilds, the team falling apart, basically everything. And today, I'm going to explain it for you all to understand. The most confusing program in college football. What in the world happened to Baylor? If you don't know who I am, I'm Saturday Shenanigans, and I post amazing college football content all off season long. Feel free to subscribe so you never miss out on another upload. Let's put this into perspective and give some background to the story. From 2003 to 2007, Baylor's football program was not great. I'll be candid with you. During this time, they were led by head coach Guy Morris, who was a TCU graduate and a longtime NFL player on the offensive line from 1973 to 1987. He had a long coaching career before he arrived in Waco, including a couple pro stints as an O-line coach at New England and Arizona. Morris went 18-40 during his 5 seasons at Baylor and was ultimately fired. After 10 seasons of being members of the Big 12, the Bears had never reached a bowl game and never even had a winning conference record. The best they did was in 2006 with a 3-5 Big 12 record, but the year after, in 2007, the team went 3-9 overall and were winless in conference play. It was time for the plug to be pulled, and the next man was in line to take over for 2008. His name was Art Briles. This was the beginning of the first high for Baylor football. Briles was not a big-name head coach at that time by any stretch of the imagination, but he was known all around the state of Texas for his various movements of coaching at the high school level. He also had some momentum coming into Waco after leading his Conference USA Houston Cougars teams to back-to-back bowl appearances in 06 and 07, but things did not immediately click, and the Bears looked like their usual selves in the 08 and 09 seasons, finishing with a 4-8 record in both. But in 2010 came the first spark, with Baylor reaching their first bowl game since 1994, where they found themselves ranked for 2 weeks in the BCS polls. 2011, the team made an even bigger jump, upsetting the previous year's Rose Bowl winners TCU in their home opener. They did drop a few games, then they finished the season hot, winners of 5 straight with a 10-3 record, and Baylor got invited to the prestigious Alamo Bowl and beat the Washington Huskies. Their quarterback at the time was alright. You may recognize the name Robert Griffin III, and oh yeah, he won the 2011 Heisman Trophy Award and became the first Bear to do so since 1963. Flash forward to 2013, Baylor's best season in program history up to that point. They started the year 9-0, climbing to as high as number 3 in the polls before they took a tough loss on the road to Oklahoma State. Quarterback Bryce Petty waited 4 years and finally got his turn to start, throwing for over 4,000 yards with 32 touchdowns and 3 interceptions, and ultimately helped his team to 11 wins and a Fiesta Bowl appearance. Now we move to 2014, a successful yet heartbreaking year for the Baylor program and fans. On the surface, you look at an 11-1 regular season record and might think, wow, incredible in back-to-back seasons, but when you look deeper, they got snubbed. This was the first season that included the 4-team college football playoff, which takes into account strength of schedule, best wins, worst losses, and eye tests to evaluate who makes it in the field. But there's also one more thing: conference championships. Unfortunately, at this time, the Big 12 didn't have a title game. So for an 11-1 Baylor and an 11-1 TCU team going into championship weekend, they got bent over. This could have been a game that decided who had the number 4 spot in the field, but instead it was given to an Ohio State team, which many believed was undeserving at the time. Come to find out, they won the national championship, so you make your own judgment. But the point is, tough luck in 2014 for Baylor, but just a year later, things spiraled out of control. In 2015, the Bears continued their success, notching 10 wins. It was the first time in school history that Baylor could say they had a three-peat of 10-plus win seasons. Coach Briles looked like he was building something amazing with the squad, but in early 2016, everything would come to a halt. That year, many women and students at the university came forward and claimed sexual assault against members of the football team. To put it short, Briles and the staff supposedly knew information about these cases but didn't come forward to fully discipline his players. On May 26th of that year, Art Briles was dismissed. It was a tragic end to the era and a story that left a bad taste in people's mouths that were associated with the university. This was a program that came from nothing and was making a rapid ascension towards the top of college football. Now, seemingly, they had to start from scratch yet again. Over a year later, in 2017, Baylor was one of the worst teams in the entire FBS, reaching lows that their program hadn't seen since 1999, with a 1-11 season. Their coach was an up-and-coming guy named Matt Rhule, who only had 4 years of head coaching under his belt, very reminiscent of Art Briles when he arrived in Waco. Rhule had led the 15-16 Temple Owls to consecutive 10-win seasons out of the American Conference, which was impressive. The Penn State alum had plenty of assistant coaching roles at the college level, and even spent the 2012 season with the New York Giants as an assistant O-line coach. But as I mentioned a second ago, things were not sweet for Rhule in his first season with the Bears. But 2018, the squad showed much improvement, going 7-6 with a win in the Texas Bowl. However, the Bears had 0 wins versus ranked opponents, clearly showing they weren't anywhere close to being a real contender. Luckily, they would only lose 1 player to the NFL draft that offseason, meaning they had a chance to develop the talent they had on their roster. Some expected Baylor to improve going into the 2019 season, but no one could have imagined what actually played out, because they took the college football world by storm. Seemingly out of nowhere, the Bears started the season 9-0, ranked as the 13th best team in the nation. But again, they had not faced a top 25 team yet. The eyes of the entire country were on a Week 11 game when number 10 Oklahoma came to Waco. Although Oklahoma pulled through late and won 34-31, this game showed everyone that Baylor was for real. They finished the regular season with wins over Texas and Kansas, securing a spot in the Big 12 championship game for the first time in program history. And it also was a rematch against the Sooners, and they lost in another heartbreaker 23-20, this time in overtime. But let's read the fine lines. Just like that, Baylor football was back. 4 years after it seemed like everything was ripped for them, they finished ranked 12th in the polls, 2 years removed from going 1-11, and a rapid fast turnaround from head coach Matt Rhule. However, the roller coaster ride continues, and right when Bears fans think they have found their coach of the future, he disappears as fast as he came on the scene. Another tough break for the program at the worst possible time. Just a week after Rhule coached his team in the Sugar Bowl, he had signed a contract to become the next head coach of the Carolina Panthers, a gut-wrenching blow. In only 5 years, the Baylor athletic department was searching for their 4th different coach. The one I didn't mention was Jim Grobe in 2016. That's because he retired the year after, and he's the guy that bridged the gap between Briles and Rhule. But back to 2020, the COVID season. Before it began, Dave Aranda took the job as the newest Baylor coach. Aranda was a longtime college defensive coordinator and spent 4 years in Baton Rouge for the LSU Tigers from 2016 to 2019. And as we know, it's extremely tough to win as a first-year head coach, especially during the COVID circumstances, so it wasn't a surprise when Baylor had a 2-7 record while finishing 9th in the Big 12. But what was surprising, however, is the shenanigans that ensued in the next season of 2021, where again, the Bears came out of hibernation and thrilled everyone in college football. Their wins included number 14 Iowa State, number 19 BYU, number 8 Oklahoma, number 5 OK State, and to wrap up their season in the Sugar Bowl, they convincingly beat number 8 Ole Miss to cap off undoubtedly the best season the program had ever seen. This Baylor team went 12-2 as the 7th best team in the country, while being selected to finish 8th in the Big 12 Conference before the year began. This is ridiculous. This is where people could finally reflect on the inconsistency of the program. 1 win in 2017, 11 in 2019, back down to 2 in 2020, and then a program best 12 wins in 2021. What in the world? It's almost like you flip a coin each year for this team, deciding on if they'll be elite or plain incompetent, with not much room in between. So, is this the point where Baylor football would finally start their continuous dominance? Absolutely not. In 2022, they win an average 6-7, and things got ugly again last year. 3-9 with a 2-7 record in conference. Baylor is truly a unique program. There are bad programs in college football. There are good ones as well, and typically these teams consistently play to that level on average. But to have a program be both at the same time with no true identity over a period of about a decade is odd. So all that being said, where does Baylor go from here? According to 24/7 Sports, Baylor is projected to go 2-10 in 2024. And if that happens, expect Dave Aranda to be out of the picture for the following season. He has a 23-25 record going into his 5th year in Waco. And the Bears hold the 53rd best recruiting class in the country, which is nothing special, and have a tough Big 12 schedule in 2024. Some notable offensive players are also departing, such as their 2-year starter, Blake Shapen. But with the track record of this team, it seems like they're due for another random, magical season, so I can't even count them out. The most bipolar college football program of all time. Let me hear your favorite Baylor football memory in the comments. Boom! That's the end of the video. So now I'm going to get into some real talk. You might be wondering, hey, Saturday, Andrew, why aren't you posting as much? You used to post 3 times a week. It's now down to about 1. That's because this summer, I'm in North Dakota for an internship. I'm a full-time play-by-play baseball commentator for the Bismarck Larks out of the Northwoods League. And in the month of June, we have been swamped with games. We actually have 22 games in 30 days. And on those days, I'm at the ballpark from 9 a.m. to about 11 p.m. I don't have time to make videos. But that being said, sometimes in the next week, just to keep it fun, I'm going to do a vlog. Yes, a day in the life of a YouTuber and sports commentator. The Northwoods League is an amazing semi-professional baseball league because 1, they have their own network, so I get these games broadcasted, and 2, they have a contract with ESPN+. So 14 games a year, I get to be streamed all over. You guys can watch it too. I may show up a few graphics on screen, but a great time. Now, let's do all the end of the video stuff. If you enjoyed, smack that like button so this video can get out in the algorithm to as many college football fans as possible. Share to your best friend because why not? Go let me know if you like Baylor football in the comments. I've been Saturday Shenanigans, your home for unfiltered college football content, and I'll see you guys soon.